In life, everyone follows their own path, and when the sky calls, each person must answer. Ling Xiao was a web novel author who, one fine day, due to his constant frivolous writing, passed away. Although a new life awaited him, a new life opens, but unfortunately, how to bump into a villain who is a stepping stone for people. He is clearly the second rich young master of the 10,000 Dao demon sect. As majestic as a toad, how can I accept myself glimmering in front of the male lead's aura? A person who is in charge of the male lead, but as soon as he kills the male lead, he is shot by the system. He wants to flip the table, wants to kill the male lead again, wants to do some of the strongest villains in the villains. And from there, the series I Conquer the Great Rebellion was born. Life always brings many tricks, and those who don't have the male lead aura often die early, sometimes not. The young man named Yang with a sword in his hand rushed forward, his whole body radiating powerful power, claiming that today was the day to rise to the rank of Dingfeng Sword Sect. Just defeating this guy Tan Chao can stand in the same place with younger sister Tan Tian. Extremely aggressive attitude, even loudly said that he would kill all those who had humiliated him, wanting them all to be crushed at once. Those who crow early usually don't live long, this brother too, demanding to kill people, but before he could deliver any blows, they were directly impaled. Red blood splattered. Look at this scene, does it look like baking a marshmallow? Yang stared blankly at the stab wound in his chest, his spirit going downhill because he couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. The man who stabbed this sword had a fierce, murderous look in his eyes, and as soon as he opened his mouth, he said a sentence like a slap, "You rotten worm, this young man is far from being a stepping stone for people." Finally, he pulled out his sword and pointed at Yang and said words filled with disdain, that the male leads like to show off their level of fighting monsters, or pretend the virtual power buffs are all because of the author's ass paved the way. As long as he meets a villain with a brain like him, he turns off the lights, and the end is only death, turning into a bunch of ashes. Saying that he used his energy to gather a ball in his hand, then directed it towards the person lying on the ground and hit him. Yang was originally not an opponent of this guy. After receiving another sword, now there is no longer enough strength to fight back. He let out a terrible scream at the same time he was thrown by the ball to create a huge explosion, his body in the blink of an eye from 70 kilograms to about 3 ounces of ashes. Regardless of the extremely bewildered expressions of people from many sects, Tu Lang called the system to check if his task of killing the god had been completed or not. He was the one who started the system, so of course he wouldn't have existed in this world in the first place. That's right, he was originally a third-rate writer on the internet, because he continuously wrote 100,000 words for many days, trying too hard, and eventually became a deceased person who died suddenly. He transmigrated to another world. Like many of the main characters before traveling through space, everyone had to go through family difficulties, decay, broken bones and broken dantian. In general, you have to endure all kinds of insults before you can counterattack. Only he is different. In this world his name is Ling Xiao, the young master of the 10,000 Dao demon sect. His parents are the owners of the Supreme Orthodox Tan Chao. It sounds like a lot of things and this and that, but he just looked at it and knew that it was not an upright character. On the contrary, it is more like a big villain. In a simple way, it is the type of character who talks and talks without reason, then goes to cause trouble and then gets kicked by the main character and dies. But with this kind of cruel literature, he has already written 180 books, fear of being turned into a villain anymore, just a little bit so that people can just turn on the main character. So his goal in this world is not to be the main character, but to kill the main character. Yang was defeated. Ling Xiao was impatient to know what spoils the system would bring to him. Unexpectedly, he calculated not by the calculation system. Although he killed the main character, he could not erase the enemy's luck. The system failed the mission that was punished by leaking magic gas. Oh my gosh, SOS, something slowly said to the system. I thought it would be fine to just take care of that god's destiny, but I never thought that this awkward situation would still happen. Both angry and not understanding, the magic gas from the body kept pouring out, unable to stop it. Ling Xiao roared loudly, his body gradually changed, and the human form was instantly torn apart and replaced by a more fierce form. After taking over his consciousness, the demonic thoughts also returned to their original form, and the power of the demonic energy released was as strong as an erupting volcano. The sects watched him change and were afraid to turn pale, because everyone thought that the demon was destroyed 300 years ago. Now, if it appeared like this, the whole world would fall into tragedy. Ling Xiao's body continued to grow uncontrollably, and soon, in the mist, he appeared with an extremely large form. Damn, does he look any different from a giant now? The disciples of the sects were afraid of the sun. Facing this big boss, how could they fight back? Screams were heard from all sides. The scene was extremely chaotic. Suddenly, from a distance, a man named Deep Luvian stood up and identified himself as the sect master of the 18th generation Tanhuan sword sect, one of the 10 best swordsmen of the Northern Emperor. Profiles are great, but in the end just a braggart. Confronting Lang Tu directly looks like an ant standing in front of an elephant to challenge. Outsiders saw that he had just complimented him with a sentence, "That's good, we're saved." It was like a second later he was beaten to death by Ling Tu. Tan Tian sat down at his feet, watching his father die, and wept bitterly. Ling Tu, in a posture controlled by demonic thoughts, did not know what he was doing. He raised his hand high intending to kill this little girl, when the sky suddenly cracked open, creating a large hole. From above, the 4 great ambassadors of the religion appeared, 3 men and 1 woman holding a magical weapon with an extremely majestic appearance. When they met for the first time, even their angels did not expect that the demon would appear here. Some people guessed that he had not awakened to the 3 realms, so he was quite weak. After all, the heavenly demon is also the demon. They have to take advantage of the time when he can't do anything to destroy it to avoid the consequences. Even if 4 hit one without a mouse, the man in the blue mask lightly vibrated the small bell on his hat to create lightning, then hurled his sword towards Lang Tu. The sword that rotated like a spinning top aimed straight at his right arm and cut it. The girl in the green mask didn't fit either. She raised the Chinese 4-chord lute, continuously making sounds that overpowered him. The person wearing the blue mask saw an opportunity and rushed forward, as fast as lightning, unleashing countless cuts on the enemy's body. A dangerous situation surrounded them from all sides. Ling Xiao opened his mouth to gather magic power into a large ball and shot it straight at them. It's only a pity that the fat-looking brother wearing a brown mask promptly discovered it, and did not hesitate to launch a fire skill to fight back. 2 massive energy masses collided to form a huge explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. The destructive power was so strong that it seemed to be able to blow away a small continental plate. Not long after the smoke, fire, and demonic energy gradually dissipated, Ling Xiao returned to his human form, lying on the ground not understanding why he became like this. He thought he was the male lead until he was slashed by a man with a golden mask holding a large knife. The head went out to leave his body behind. In the scene after the rain, the sky was bright again. The great demon was destroyed by the good side and defeated the evil. Then he knew he was the real main character. But what about the end? He died. End of film. Expected to be shown 5 parts like the movie Bride 8 years old. Who knew that after only 1 episode, he went out to receive the salary, and Lang Tu got angry and called the system to ask for a solution. The system appeared very quickly, but instead of explaining it, it asked him if he wanted to recharge to prolong his life or choose to be reincarnated. Well, isn't it? Ling Xiao looked gray and asked the system if there was another way for him to go. Expected the system said yes. Fortunately, he asked if there was no more. This item would have been hidden. According to the information, his third option is to turn on the beginner protection and then start the mission again. Wow, I don't think this is too delicious to eat. Ling Xiao immediately snapped his fingers and told the system he wanted to choose this. The system accepts that but still has a little conscience to remind. Everything has its 2 sides. This option still has another downside that can only be used once. If he is unlucky to die again, he will go back to sell salt with his grandparents. Lang Tu knew, but Lang Tu didn't care, thinking about doing more. A villain like him doesn't die so easily. And if it's really dead, then it's just bad luck, but what can I say now? The system received an order to reactivate the content, and while waiting for the beginning of the story, Ling Xiao began to seriously think about a countermeasure. The body that he is occupying is at a high level, the equipment is very good. Now acting in the lower world is like a professional player in fighting the village pond. The bad thing is that he was born with a villain disease that is a god. If he was exposed, he received a knife and then ended the movie like last time. If you accept to follow the storyline sooner or later, you will have to become a stepping stone for the main character. On the other hand, if you want to flip the table to destroy the author's biological child without removing all the lucky points, the system will backfire. The outcome will be the same. Turn around and he'll die anyway.